I really like doing it. I got a lot of encouragement from people, from my family, from friends. Growing up, you know, I started to win a number of awards when I was a child for it, and so I figured that's what I should do.
Right.
I never really just made the decision to be an artist, but I just kind of, you know, that's what I did well, so that's what I'd be doing.
It's a natural progression.
Yeah. There were the usual drawings of superheroes, and spaceships, and turkeys, and you know, all of the seasonal things, and just everything that I guess a younger person would draw.
Right.
So I don't know if they would look any different from any other young person who is making drawings or painting.
Yeah.
It was pretty important because it gave you encouragement.
Right.
It made you feel like, you know, you're talented at this. You can. This is something that you do well, and that encouragement just, you know, it helped me to make the decision to go to college and study art. At Boston University, they're a real traditional school. You learn traditional drawing and painting, probably like no other place that I know of in the U.S. And so I got a really strong sort of base in terms of drawing, painting, and even sculpture.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's one of the American values for art and artists, is that they find their own unique voice, or that their art is, you know, original.
Right.
And so that's a certain quality that I think artists seek. And so everybody's going to be looking for, you know, to do work that is original, that's their own. Yeah. Person can be blown away by such a great work. You know, how could you look up there and you think, how could a man do that? You know, but on the other hand, you start to look at the work and then you know, start to think about it. Well, it took him a little longer than you're thinking about. You know, when I'm thinking, how can a person do it? It took Michelangelo years to do that Sistine Chapel. Now, how many people today would spend years working on anything? Or the David too. And so when you think about it in that sense, you think, okay, well, I see how a person can do that. A skillful person, taking their time, they can make that. And so it was when I learned that I first began to have thoughts about a love supreme. When I do a picture, say like a love supreme, in my mind, I'm thinking about love, and I'm thinking about love and its connection to God, in the sense that the scripture says God is love. And we know that love is something you can't see, you can't touch it, you can't grab it, right? But I'm going to make a picture about it. And so then my ideal is to talk about love from the extent of a very sort of a very simple day-to-day thing to a metaphor that talks about a really, you know, the love of God abiding over man. And so the idea is that using something simple and very ordinary like quilts, I'm going to use them as metaphors to talk directly about spiritual and biblical things. Yeah, I was working on a Love Supreme for years, probably about 8 years. I just couldn't work on it straight. I'd have to stop and work on other things, and then work on it and stop and work on other things. And so I think at the end, I was working on finishing a Love Supreme, and it was during that time also that I was working on Big Mom's house. And Big Mama's House was a much shorter project.
Right.
No, you know, I had in my mind something of the whole thing from the beginning. I didn't know exactly what it would look like. I knew it would be really big, about as big as I could fit in the room. I knew about how long I wanted. Initially, I thought I wanted it 25 feet. It was 20. I knew I wanted the piece to totally encompass the viewer, and I knew I wanted to use quilts. So, process is very important. I try to stay lucid. I like to have a good time with the paint. I like to have fun with it. I like to feel like, because it's literally the place where I'm using the language, visual language. And so I'm very cognizant of the fact that everything I'm doing, whether the paint is thin, whether it's thick, it reads a different way. Whether I use glazes or just alla prima, or whether there's a lot of marks or one big thick, all of that is it's the visual language, right? But it's not applied necessarily like language. Like, I'm not thinking about the marks in the paint the same way you would think about how to choose the right words. I would consider the thought to be closer to maybe the type of thought a musician might have in terms of composing a piece. You know, they're not thinking over every, not necessarily, not that I know, but they sort of hear the piece and they kind of feel it out, and it's the same way.